I think if you've grown up in church, you're familiar with that idea of letting your light shine. It's not a new concept, right? Sometimes I think here's the struggle. It's like, what does it look like? So let me tell you what it looks like, all right? Just in real time in this week. You probably saw on our social media, Tori put out that we're looking for a laptop. We're looking for a used laptop because what we'd like to do is Sherry spends 2 to 3 hours a week downloading just paper, just getting lesson plans together. And so what we don't have is like a spare workstation, because what we'd love is someone to be able to come in for maybe a couple hours a week or every other week and download paper and make copies so that we have them for the children's ministry, okay? That's one way someone's light could shine. It's just like if you've got some time and you're not scared by downloading information and working a copier, we could use you, all right? But we don't have that computer. Everybody's got their own computer, but we don't have one sitting around. So we put that request out for a used one. That's a still legitimate request. If you've got a used 2 or 3, 4-year-old computer, we don't, I've got one from 10 years ago. It's not game, all right? But someone pinged us on Friday and said, hey, look, you want $500 for a computer? Done. So what does kindness look like? Yeah, it's someone able to write a check to get the church a new computer. Kindness looks like someone saying, you know what, I'd come up once a week or every other week and just download stuff so the kids and teachers have got their supplies. Kindness, having your light, letting God use you, because a lot of different ways. Some of them look really obvious. Some of them are really crazy. And that's what I want to talk to us about today. If you've got those outlines in front of you, I had you crumble this up because by Thursday noon, I've turned in an outline for where I think I want the message to go for a week so that Tori can print it on Thursday. And I'm just driving around on Thursday afternoon and Friday, and my brain's going, you know what? This passage that we're at in Gideon isn't so much about like winning personal battles as it is about what God does with a group of people. And so I wanted to tweak the direction a little bit. So that's why you just wadded those things up, and we're going to go a whole different direction with this. How many of you maybe are familiar with the story? The story goes of a older gentleman that lived I guess he had a beachfront home, you'd say it, right? And he's out one morning, it's 5, he's got his coffee, he's sort of watching the sun kind of come up, and as he looks out, he sees he's got looks like from his perspective like an ant. He's just looking down the beach. It's not very big. It's obviously somebody, and he can't figure out for the life of them what they're doing, because every few moments they would stop from walking, and then they just jerk their arm toward the sea, and then they walk. And so he decides to go check this out. Like, who's up at 5 in the morning besides old people? As he's walking, he's looking, and it's this little guy. Can't be more than 7, 8, 9 years old, out on the beach. And so the guy now, his radar's up, and he's like, hey, calls, So as he gets closer, he says, what are you doing? And the little guy is picking up a starfish, and he's winging it back out into the ocean as the tide's going out, right? And the little guy says, I'm just trying to save starfish, as he wings another one out into the ocean. And the old man looks at the beach, and there's like a gazillion starfish on the beach. There's a lot of them, right? And so the old man says, son, you're not going to save them all. I mean, like, this is sort of a waste of time, because you're going to do that and they're going to come back, and what difference is it really going to make? All the while, it didn't deter the little guy. The little guy just picks up another one and he wings it back into the sea, and there's this what I call a pregnant pause. And the older man just asked him again, it's like, do you think it matters what you're doing? And the little guy, as he chucks one more into the sea, says, I think it matters to that one. And I wonder how many of us sometimes might look at life and say, hey, what I'm doing really doesn't matter. I think sometimes as a parent, after you've banged your head against the wall one more time, you think to yourself, is this really going to matter? I think some of you are spending your time on your jobs, and you're just going, man, if I'd just be out of here in a heartbeat if I could, because I don't think what I do matters. Some of you are like, if you were just genuinely honest, you would say, I don't have a friend I maybe got one, I just don't have people. My life really, oh man, I mean, I know I'm not supposed to say that, but I feel like I'm just spinning my wheels. How do we get to a spot where maybe what we do actually, though, matters to one? Is that significant? If all you did was just matter to one, but you really did matter to one, would that move the needle for you? Do you have to be a person that's doing thousands? Would making a difference to 100 matter to you? Do you need 100? 50? If you could make a difference to 50? 10? I'm just trying to get inside your head. How many would it take for you to feel like your life made a difference? Because for this little guy, it mattered to that one. It mattered to that one. I want you to open your Bibles to the Old Testament book of Gideon. Gideon, as we're looking at these stories of unlikely heroes, sort of fits. We saw last week, he was, I don't know how else to say it. He was not a very brave individual. He wasn't going to be selected to be the next cabinet member. He was not, no one was looking at him as like a college president. No, I mean, he was just like trying to stay under the radar, not have anybody notice him. Man, if I could just live life and just kind of like do my thing and nobody even know I'm here, Gideon's cool with that, all right? And God comes to him and says, it's pre-incarnate appearance of Jesus, comes to him and just says, hey, what are you doing? And Gideon's like, I'm hanging out, I'm just chilling. If you haven't heard the news, there's like this big old Midian army, and every time like we try and do something, they come in and take our stuff. Have you ever felt that way? Have you ever felt like people take your stuff? Well, what, Mike? Well, I don't know. Has anybody ever had someone take credit for their work? That would fit, wouldn't it? Remember, do you ever have somebody take credit for your work? How that felt? You just felt like, oh, what? I did that, right? Midianites, they're coming in, they're taking their crops, they're like whatever good, their cattle, whatever's going on. Every so often they come in, they'd raid, they'd take it back with them. And so the people of God, of which Gideon's a part of, are like, oh man, we got to cover ourselves, make sure, and just protect ourselves, and just sort of shrink back. Jesus comes to them and says, man, I got plans for you. And Gideon's like, not me. You don't know me. If you knew me, you'd know I'm not cut out for this hero stuff. And my family is a joke. No one's going to no one's really ever asked me to do anything cool. And the Lord's like, no, man, you're the guy. I'm tapping you. He says to him, first I'm going to need you to go back home and deal with some stuff there, deal with some idols there. And we said last week that an idol is anything that you're counting on to make you happy apart from Jesus. In O'Fallon, I doubt any of you, seriously, have some sort of engraved wooden thing in your house. Although I am familiar, in O'Fallon, there are people with idols in their homes. And they're not far from here. So don't think we're talking about some third world country somewhere overseas. It's happening right here in O'Fallon. I've seen them, right? An idol is anything that you think is going to get it for you apart from Jesus. So your idol might be relationships. Your idol might be your job. Your idol might be your paycheck. Your idol might be your 401k. Your idol might be your status on a team. Your idol might be the car you drive, the kind of look you give, the vibe you give off, all that you think is going to get it for you. And I'm just saying to you, I've talked to enough people that I know it's not a slam. Just if you're not there yet, you're going to get there where you're going, really? Because I thought this was going to work, and it's not working for me. Idols never work. They're just dumb things. They for a while, they feel good. So Jesus says to him, I need you to go home. I need you to tear down some idols in your house. Just start at home. And Gideon's like, he goes at night. About middle of chapter 6, you find he goes at night. He takes 10 dudes with him. It says he took him with him, and he did it at night because he was scared. Takes them all down. Next morning, people find out, what happened? And bring Gideon's dad out. Like, it was your boy. He did this. Come on out. We're gonna deal with him. And his dad at least had the foreknowledge or the wisdom to stand up for his son and say, you know what? You worship this God. Can't the God defend himself? Can't the God, take care of this? What are you guys doing? And so they back off. And God now just comes back to him and says to Gideon, all right, now I'm going to use you to deliver a people, your people, from the Midian. It's like, oh, I can't do this. All right, I'll tell you what, God, can we make a deal? I got this blanket. If I put the blanket out on the ground and all the ground around it is dry, but the blanket's wet, then I'll know you really want me to do this. Like we call it a fleece. Some of you are familiar with that terminology. I think it's interesting. I just want a side note. I want to go down the path. He didn't put out a fleece to know what God wanted. He already knew what God wanted. When we use the fleece today, it's like, oh, I'm not sure what God wants me to do. Now, Gideon knew what God wanted him to do. He wanted him to go. Gideon was just like, man, are you with me in this? Can we do this? And if you know the story, one time it's like the fleece is all soaked, the land is all dry, and he's like, oh, one more time, all right, can the blanket be dry and all the ground wet? So God said, okay, I can do this. This is child's play. So Gideon's like, all right, okay, I'll go, all right. And so chapter 7 opens up. And 32,000 people for Israel show up. We're going to kick the enemy's butt. We're going. We're there. Sign me up. And God says, that's too many people. Tell the people that are scared they can go home. I wondered what that announcement was like. Hey, I know you all signed up to go to battle. Any of you really nervous, like something might happen to you? Any of you really worried about your family back home? If you got to just go, you can go. And 22,000 of them said, okay, sign me up, I'm out of here. I didn't want to fight anyways, man, never been in battle. These guys are big. Fine, good. So now he's got 10,000. All right? God says to him, but 10,000 is still way too many. So he takes them out and he says, hey, here's a lake out there. Just watch how they get some water. And the ones that get down on all fours and just stick their face in the lake, he said, they got to go. The ones who kind of kneel and bring the water like you're just taking it in your hand, we're going to keep those. Sort of an interesting way to separate out. Some have said that maybe the people that got down on all fours and stopped paying attention to the enemy, maybe you don't want those people fighting for you, right? The ones who kneeled kept their eyes up, bringing the water to their face, all the while looking. I don't want to get stabbed in the back, right? Something to think about when you're picking your team. There's some people that really are scared to be a part of what's going on. I think there are other people that like convenience and comfort, and if it's going to be uncomfortable, they're like, oh, man, I don't know, I didn't sign up for this. And then there are other people like, man, I'm ready for a fight. We've been scared long enough. I'm ready to go, Gideon. And so they got 300. Odds are now I think somebody did the math, they're 450 to 1. Okay? And so Gideon's like, all right, well, okay, this is what we got. And they take these things they've got, they got a flashlight, they got a torch, they got a jar. I tried to find a trumpet. I couldn't find a trumpet, so I got another noisemaker. I got a little Tykes drum. Do you guys have these at your home? No. You need to get these. These are beautiful things. They really, these in the hands of a 2-year-old are really, really a cool thing, okay? A 2-year-old watching Winnie the Pooh is a really, really cool thing with a drum. I'm just saying, all right? So they're going to go to battle with a trumpet, but I used a little tyke there. They got a flashlight or a torch, and they've got these clay jars. And if you know the story, they divide into 3 groups of 100. Gideon says, when I say go, we go. In the middle of the night, since there's the 3rd watch, and so when you do a little digging, what you find out is about the middle of the night. You would have had a group of people that was done working, you would have had a large group of people sleeping, and you would have had a group of people that were just coming on the job in the middle of the night, right? That's the nature of that watch. In the middle of the night, all these torches light up the sky. Oh, all of them, 300 of them. And they start breaking jars or banging drums. And they take the jars and smash them, and all this chaos, and the enemy just beats themselves up. And then they start running. And in that crazy scenario, God delivers the enemy into the hands of Midian. And I thought to myself, I don't know about you, I'm not looking to go out and smash any jars this week. Being straight, I don't have an army. I don't have a 30,000 person army I'm going up against. How does this at all relate to us as a church, or to maybe you as a person? Other than it's like a nice Old Testament story, but so what? So what? I want to give you some so whats. Can I do that? Will you just bear with me a little bit? Because I think there's some really cool stuff here that does apply, that as I was like parsing and thinking this thing through, applies to us as a church. Maybe might apply to you as a person, all right? First thing I want you to understand is what I think I put in there, is that God's great purpose, God's big picture, is always to redeem or rescue a people. You know what separates the church from Cub Scouts, from your club team, from whatever little civic organization you may be part of? They do good things. They really do. I mean, our son, a couple of our kids did sports, club ball, high school cheer. They did stuff growing up. It's good for kids to be involved in that stuff, right? Some of our families are in Scouts. They're good organizations. So don't hear trying to bash them. The church, in representing Jesus, is we're trying to rescue people in the name of Christ and give them a better future. I'm not sure soccer was really trying to do that for my kid. He wanted to make him a better athlete, and the soccer club wanted to win games. I'm going to umpire some softball this afternoon for a big tournament out in Chesterfield. They want to win games. Parents pay big money for your kid to win a softball game, to win a tournament, to get better, to maybe get a scholarship, because you think college and a scholarship is what your kid needs. I'm not discounting that. Wouldn't you say that they need Christ more? Because I'm going to risk something here. How many of you have ever lost a job through no fault of your own? Put your hand up. Was not your fault. You just honestly know it wasn't your fault. Right? You didn't do anything wrong. You lost your job. How many of you, when you lose your job and it's not your fault, it takes a hit to you? Fair. I'm not like, this isn't rocket science. I really think it's true, right? You're like, what did I do? I was playing by the rules. What do you think's happening to all the government workers? I don't care where your stance is on it. I'm not trying to be political. Couldn't we acknowledge thousands of people over the last couple of months have lost their job? And some would say, well, they weren't working anyways. Okay, but you think all of them were not working anyways? Is that what you really think? You don't think there were good people that lost their job through no fault of their own? Somebody just said, hey, what was the group on Friday? 4 o'clock? An email went out. Hey, you got 30 minutes to get your stuff and get out. Here's where I'm headed with that. When that stuff comes, how do you navigate that? Do you think club sports helps you navigate that? That's all I'm asking you. So when we say in the church that we are a chosen, this is what Peter said, you're a chosen race, you're a royal priesthood, you're a holy nation, you're a people for God's own possession, that you would proclaim the excellence of the one who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. We are saying as the church, as people of Jesus, that we offer something to people in the midst of the crazy world in which they live. That's why the church exists. That's what makes us different than the other organizations that you're a part of. We're actually trying to introduce people to God so that through faith in Christ, they might be forgiven and they might have a strength and a power to live through the disappointments that come, because they come. And God has always been about wanting to rescue a people. He loves people. He loves you. He cares about what's going on in your world, and he's wanting to send someone that's going to encourage you to just keep on. And he's looking for a church that will be like, hey, people, Come on, there's people out there that need to know they matter. There's people out there in Dardenne Prairie and Lake St. Louis that need to know that I've not forgotten them. Hey, come on, Stonebridge. Let's work together to do this. And Gideon was like, oh, man. Because, see, as I said, the battle for people is real. Absolutely 100%. Because people are all over the map, man. They're thinking, I can't do this. And so here's the first thing is like Gideon's like, as I said to you, he's like, I don't think I'm the guy. And God has always been about using regular people. Just ordinary, everyday, run-of-the-mill people. Now, these ordinary run-of-the-mill people have issues. We got baggage. Gideon had baggage. I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I'm not a warrior. I've never handled a sword. Can't you see I'm hiding out? I'm afraid. I'm an introvert. I don't want to talk to people. Man, I was talking to somebody this week. Who was it? It came back to me. All right. And they're like, when I get home, I'm exhausted. And I'm like, you don't even work all day. What are you talking about? You're exhausted. He's like, I got to deal with people all day. And I'm like, I get you. Anybody who's had to deal with people all day, you know, man, I don't care what else you do. If you have to deal with people, like people are crazy. They genuinely are. And Gideon would feel that. He's like, oh, man. Gideon would say, my house is a mess. My family, we worship Jesus and a whole bunch of other things. I don't know. My parents have messed me up. I talk to kids. They'll tell you. I love talking to kids because I find out what you guys are really like as adults. And they say, my parents have messed me up. Slight exaggeration, okay? But we know Gideon had to go back into his home and tear down the idols. His dad worshiped Jesus and other stuff. I don't know if his dad was a good guy or not. I do know his dad compromised. His dad flirted with doing some things that weren't really kosher with God. Rahab, Old Testament. Sleeping with men, that was her job. They didn't call her a harlot for nothing. Rahab. Here's about the people of God coming across and doing some crazy things. And Rahab, when the spies come in. And you know what? Rahab makes this hall of fame of faith. How does she get in? How does someone with a past like that get in? Because some of you would say, God can't use me because of my past. The best line is the guys who say, I can't go to church because God will strike it with lightning. What are you saying when you say that? If I go to church, the church will burn down. And I've said to one guy, you're not that big a deal. You're really not. God's not going to destroy the church for you. It's just not going to happen. But that's our excuse. God can't use me. Gideon would say, God, what you're doing is you're just asking too much of me. And you know, the interesting thing I want you to think about here is in Judges chapter 6, verse 14, God tells him to go in the strength that he has. And I was just reading through that passage, and God never asked Gideon to do something he couldn't do. Now, he asked him to do some uncomfortable things. Hey, go home and knock down your dad's worship pole. Okay? That would have been uncomfortable. That's why he did it at night. And he did it with friends. Okay? But when you look at the story of what God asked Gideon to do, hey, just go home and deal with this thing. Hey, recruit an army. Okay, now we got to cut some of the army. All right, give the army some instructions about what they're supposed to do. Everything that God asked Gideon to do, Gideon could do. God's never going to ask you to do something you can't do. The question then becomes what? Do you want to do it? That's always the issue. It's not you can't. It's you don't want to. And you can be scared. I'm cool with that. I'm kosher. I understand you're scared. So what? So what? You're nervous. So what? It's not you can't do it. You just don't want to. If God's ever tapped your heart and said, hey, man, here's an opportunity for you. I could use you in this, and you think of all the reasons you can't. It's not that you can't do it. It's you don't want to. And so when God's using regular people, they couldn't. I mean, the Bible's full of just all these people. Normal folks who stuttered, who had a past, whose home was messed up. I mean, it's just crazy that I'm up here. Seriously. See, what happens then is by the grace of God. And you honestly look people in the eye and say, it wasn't anything about me, it was about God's goodness in me. It's what God did in my heart. He changed my heart. And I just said yes to this, and boom. When I was 19 years old, I said yes to being involved in middle school ministry. Had never done anything in the church at all, but they needed help with middle school kids. And I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing at all, but I can be a part of a team. And that started a journey for me. But first saying yes to being involved with middle school kids and just hanging out with them for about 4 years. I love kids. To this day, I still love, I have an affinity for middle and high school kids because I think that's a tremendous opportunity to speak truth in the life of kids who are wondering, who are asking questions. See, they're past the little baby faith, and they've heard what their mom and dads have said, and now they want to know, is it real? Is it true? And when there are credible adults who can step in there and ask and are not afraid of questions, dialogue, befriending, that's cool, rich stuff. Absolutely all day. Just regular people, ordinary people. So that's the first thing that I noticed from this story. I don't think God minds your questions. Gideon had questions. Mary had questions. Remember? The angel came to her and said, hey, you're going to have a baby. And Mary's like, okay, whoa, how can this be? Thomas, man, okay, I know you think you saw. I mean, I don't even know what you think you saw. When I saw Jesus, he was dead. Thomas said, unless I see, I'm not going to believe. And Jesus stands before him and says, hey, you want to touch? Gideon had questions. Gideon had doubts. And all along the way, God was honest. God doesn't mind your honest questions and your honest doubts. That's when you fake stuff. Because if he answers it, you're faced with a dilemma. Like, what am I going to do now? Because God answered it. You going to throw up another one? Another one? Because I see here on the screen, you say at some point, you're going to have to risk if what God says to you is true. You're going to have to step. God said, I want you to go to the edge of the water, and then I want you to put your feet in. And when the feet get in the water's going to part. And you're like, oh, man, you know what? That never happens when I go to the beach. I don't see water part. No. Can I be straight up honest? So it was just this week, I met with Sherry. We found out Sherry's got an issue making these copies. A couple hours a week, give or take, that she spends doing this. All right, there's a problem. How do we solve the problem? Well, we don't have a laptop. Okay, my first instinct was, well, maybe one of you people graciously have an old laptop. And then when I said to Tori, hey, why don't we just put in there, but I never dreamed someone would say, I'll write you a check for a laptop. I never dreamed that. That was sort of a secondary thought. And so when Friday I get an email saying, yeah, so-and-so in the congregation is like, hey, man, if you need money for a laptop, they'll write a check. When did the water part? When they put their feet in. When did we have someone say, hey, I'll cover a laptop. I can do that. When we said, we need a laptop. My point becomes, when you have problems and obstacles, you got questions, if you want to face them honestly and say, God, here's what I'm struggling with. I'd love to be a part of that. I'd love to get involved. God, I'd love to see you do this. But you got to name it. You got to say what your but is. And then you honestly got to say, God, okay, if this happens, then what? Then what? Because now you're faced with a dilemma. My Petoskey stone. You've heard the story. I didn't expect to find a Petoskey stone in Traverse City, Michigan. They're not there. They're farther up. But I thought that's a good test because the odds are not in my favor. And then when I find it, what are you struggling with this morning? What's your question? Are you willing to put it before God and say, God, here's where I'm struggling. Here's my honest doubt. I'm going to name it. Gideon said, don't be angry with me if I speak just once more. Let me just one more test with the fleece. Let the fleece be dry. Let there be water all around. And God said, okay. What's your struggle? I think that's there. And don't let your struggle hold you back from what God wants to do and using you to make a difference in people's lives. God's plans often seem crazy. This is, to me, the funnest part. So they're not going to battle with swords. It's flashlights. It's horns. Drums. They have drums. That's all I got. Pitchers. Against a well-armed army that twice it says there were so many of them we couldn't even count them. Get some water. Could you give me some water? Dave's already on it. Thanks. Yeah. Dave, thank you. Yeah. Most of the rest of you would have waited for me to choke and die up here. I love it. Absolutely love it. It's crazy stupid to think if we hand out wands of bubbles at an Easter egg hunt, it's not going to make any difference. 500 families, that can make any difference. I don't know. Crazy stupid to think about if you were to forgive yourself. Would that make any difference? Would that make any difference in your life if you honestly could come to a spot of forgiving yourself? Is it crazy stupid to think about what if you were to forgive somebody else? You're still harboring it. Somebody's hurt you. You're still hanging on to it. And Jesus said, let it go. Let it go for your own soul. Would you just let it go? You did ministry for a while. You got hurt. Somebody said something. Somebody didn't do what you wanted, so you quit. How long are you going to hang on to that? How long is that going to bother you? Before you say, you know what, God, I just want to be used. I don't know. We have needs in student ministry, children's ministry. Back in the booth. And God uses regular people doing regular things, and it just seems crazy. I get Cruise. Crew is a college ministry here in St. Louis. I get Lee Watkins' email. This was his email, kind of an end-of-year wrap-up that they celebrated with college kids here just in the last couple of weeks. And the message was kind of ruminating in my head. He says at Lindenwood University, we celebrated one student recently coming to Jesus, and they came with a graduating senior who's joining our team in the fall as an intern. At Webster, we were sharing stories of the new students who were attending Bible studies. One student at Webster, who's not a Christian, shared with the staff that they never met up with someone to talk about God. Okay, so at Webster, there was a college kid, had never had any conversation with anybody about talking about God. Crew did an outreach at Webster where they handed out flowers with a message that said that God sees you. He knows you. He loves you. Something stupid, crazy. The student at Webster who had never had anybody talk to them about God got a flower. And the next time they did that, that student who had never had a conversation with anybody about God was handing out flowers. That's so stupid. Seriously, handing out flowers says God sees you. What? Handing out bubble wands. Taking an interest in somebody at work. Talking to your neighbor. And also after a year of struggling with her identity and how Jesus calls us to life in him, a student left campus and challenged, and they are going to fulfill a summer Bible study plan. And the student is willing to wrestle with not fully giving herself to Jesus. That takes some courage to be serious about that stuff. See, admit your questions, be willing to face your doubts. Say, God, if you're real, can you do this? So, I don't know. I just think what God does is crazy, fun stuff. And I'm committed as a church. Let's do fun, crazy stuff together that we might reach some. Because God wants to rescue them. God wants to see them better. Which led me then to see, at the end of this, it's really about choosing a life of worship. It was interesting to me that twice it says here that Gideon built an altar and worshiped. Right before he went into his father's house and right before he goes into battle. Most of us choose worry. How's it going to go? How's this going to play out? What if? What if God doesn't show up? What if God doesn't? And you're consumed with the what ifs of what God might not do. When Gideon says, I'm going to just choose to worship. I'm going to choose to believe that God's on my side. I think God is looking for worshipers. And worship isn't just singing songs. Worship isn't this Sunday morning where you sing 4 songs and then go home. That's a part of worship. But that is such a small part of worship. You know what worship is for me? Could I communicate to you? Worship is just a sense in your heart that you trust that God's got you. And you're going to follow. You're going to follow. Whatever that looks like. And if you and I could do that, the difference we'd make in the lives of the people that we live with, I don't think you can calculate. I don't think when you talk to people whose lives are different because someone kind of was like there representing Jesus to them, and they had a place they could go and they could explore faith. They had someone that was praying for them. They had someone that was there that was like encouraging them on. What if we had 300 of those? Because that's all Gideon had. 450 to 1 were the odds. What if there were 50 of us that just were committed to, like, all right, this summer, 100 days. You know what 100 days is from now? 100 days from now is September 2nd. So 100 days. This summer for 100 days. Would you trust God? Would you be honest with your question, with your doubts? For 100 days, would you say, God, I'm going to fill a hole. I'll just do it for 100 days. I'll try this thing. You willing to do that for 100 days? Get involved in something? Were you willing, like maybe you've not been regularly giving because you're scared that if you regularly give, God won't meet your needs. And I read the headlines. I understand tariffs. I understand recession. I get all that. And you've been holding back because, man, what if? What if? It's your fear. God, if I give, I won't have. What if for just 100 days you trusted God with your giving? So June, July, August, 3 months. Not the rest of your life. And see if God doesn't do something. I don't know. I really don't know. I do know this. I don't think that God's going to ever have me look at him and say, hey, God, I gave a little more than you did. Hey, Jesus, I did a little more than you did. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to say that. And I say that to you because I believe that one day I'm going to face him. I'm going to look at him, and we're going to rejoice, and it's going to be a really, really cool party. And what I'm looking for I'm looking for that day. I hope it's not tomorrow. That's how we all think, right? You know what I enjoy so much about tomorrow is when I have conversations. Casey told me this week, got a text from her. You emailed 7 students? Sent postcards to 7 students? Made some phone calls? Let kids know they're loved. How long did it take you? Hour? Maybe. Hour of our time to let middle school kids know they're loved. It's no big deal. I don't know. Is it? If you're one of the middle school kids? You got an adult that just said, hey, I know you're out there. Travis has been doing the same thing with high school kids. Is that a big deal? I don't know, unless you're one of the high school kids. How many of you adults like to get notes and hear from people? Seriously, if you're just honest. You like it when people notice you? I don't know. It's not a big deal, right? Y'all big wusses. Y'all need that? A little touch? That just makes you so weak. What can one person do? Team's coming up. What could one person do in their own strength? You know what? One person could honestly invite a friend to church. You could do that in your own strength. That's not a spiritual calling. It's a spiritual gift of talking to people about coming to church. Then God could maybe move in that person's spirit and rescue them. But maybe God's waiting for you to go, to do what you can do. One person could pick up the phone and they could call someone that they haven't seen in a while. And then maybe God could use that phone call to remind that person that he still sees, that he's still aware of them. One person could pick up an older person who doesn't drive anymore and take them to church. I got 2 ladies here today where that's happening. There are people today worshiping with you where that's happening. Then maybe God could use that ride to encourage that person. One person could write notes of encouragement, or they could text. And then maybe, just maybe, that person who gets that note of encouragement is reminded that God hasn't forgotten them. One person could take a turn in the nursery. That would allow someone else to have a break. One person could make and send birthday cards. One person could help out in Clayton where a storm rolls through. One person could serve at a shelter. Do not believe the lie that your one person doesn't matter. So what I want to ask you this morning as we sing this song, if you just, I just would ask you, like, what's holding you back? What's holding you back? If you've got a question or a fear, would you be honest with it? I would appreciate, even if before God you say, God, you know what, I really don't care to. I just don't care. I don't believe it's true. I don't think my life would make a difference. But if it would you show me? Oh, man, that would be a prayer God would love to answer. That would be an interesting one. If you would challenge God to say, hey, would you show me if my life mattered? Your giving, I've already showed you. One person saying to us, we hope to have a person in here that's going to alleviate some of what Sherry's doing. Because someone said, I can write a check. Sure, I can write a check. That's cool. You're giving, making a difference so that ministry goes on, so that we buy bubble wands. Crazy stuff. Don't underestimate the power of your one life, because God is always about wanting to rescue others through you and me. Let's stand and sing with these guys.